America has a town called Intercourse, and another place literally named Hell. Can you believe that? It honestly feels like whoever was naming these towns was going through a messy breakup and just kept rolling with it. But that's only the beginning, because there are more than 50 towns with names even stranger than these. So let's kick this off with number 50, which is Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, a place that literally renamed itself after a game show, creating an odd tension where every building seems to lean forward as if waiting to see whether you'll accept a challenge or walk away. As you drive through its dusty streets, you can't shake the feeling that the town itself is watching, curious whether visitors will embrace its quirky reputation or flinch at the surreal way it blurs the line between everyday life and a living pop culture dare. Now we drift into Town 49, Accident, Maryland, where the name feels like a cosmic disclaimer placed right at the entrance, making newcomers instinctively grip the steering wheel tighter, as though something unpredictable might leap from the shadows without warning. Yet as you wander around, the calm neighborhoods create a comforting contradiction, making you laugh at how the town's dramatic title contrasts with the surprisingly peaceful atmosphere that feels more like a warm, gentle shrug from a place that knows its joke always lands. Sliding next into Town 48, Arizona, you instantly feel the confused spirit of the landscape, because the roads merge in a shape that once resembled the letter Y, turning the entire town into an existential riddle whispered by the desert winds. The longer you stand there, the more the name settles into your mind, until you begin questioning not just the geography but your own decisions, making the town feel like a sun-baked philosopher asking gentle but persistent questions you never planned to answer. Rolling into Town 47, No Name, Colorado, you immediately sense a playful defiance, as though the founders collectively gave up on labels and decided the simplest title would create the biggest reactions from travelers who panic briefly thinking their GPS malfunctioned. Walking around, you notice locals carrying the town's nameless identity with pride, creating an atmosphere where stories feel handwritten on blank pages, and every corner suggests something memorable might happen precisely because nothing has been officially labeled beforehand. Next is Town 46, Normal, Illinois, a place whose aggressively ordinary name somehow makes everything feel suspicious, as though the universe intentionally chose the most ironic title possible, just to keep visitors scanning for unusual details hiding beneath the surface. As you stroll through quiet streets and friendly shops, you gradually sense that the town's charm lies in its bold embrace of mildness, turning its seemingly simple identity into a clever punchline that nudges travelers to appreciate the humor hiding in plain sight. Now we enter Town 45, Ding Dong, Texas, where the name practically rings with cheerful mischief, making the welcome sign feel like an invitation to join a small, friendly sitcom where everybody knows the joke and happily shares it with newcomers. With bell imagery decorating the area and locals who proudly lean into the town's whimsical spirit, Ding Dong becomes a place so delightfully self-aware that even routine activities feel like playful scenes written just to keep visitors smiling. Rolling onward, Town 44, Bigfoot, Texas, greets you with a name that instantly heightens your senses, making every creaking branch and rustling leaf feel like potential evidence that the mythical creature might actually be enjoying a quiet retirement nearby. Despite the mystery, locals maintain a calm, inviting tone, encouraging travelers to embrace the folklore while exploring forests that radiate an exciting uncertainty, creating the sense that stories here aren't told so much as they quietly watch from the trees. Arriving next is Town 43, Boring, Oregon, a name that appears determined to undersell itself. Yet the instant you arrive, its dry humor becomes clear as travelers flock to take photos that prove boredom can become entertainment when framed the right way. The town's laid-back energy pulls you in, transforming its ironic simplicity into a memorable experience, showing how even a place that claims to be dull can charm visitors with the warm sincerity hiding beneath its intentionally monotone personality. We now visit Town 42, Chicken, Alaska, a community whose name exists solely because early settlers couldn't agree on how to spell Ptarmigan, accidentally creating one of the most lovable labeling mistakes in American history. As you explore the rugged landscape, the name's humorous origin becomes part of the adventure, making the remote wilderness feel surprisingly friendly, as though the land itself laughs softly every time a newcomer grins at the town's feathered identity. Next up, Town 41, Dull, Ohio, radiates a quiet understatement that feels almost artistic, encouraging visitors to slow down and appreciate the calm corners of a place that seems perfectly satisfied, avoiding dramatic labels or exaggerated excitement. But beneath its muted name lies a gentle charm, drawing travelers into moments that feel peaceful rather than plain, showing that sometimes the most unassuming destinations create the clearest memories when nothing distracts you from the simple rhythm of small-town life. We move toward Town 40, Oklahoma, a place whose name sounds like a collective nod from the entire community, as if the founding meeting concluded with a shrug and a friendly agreement that everything should remain comfortably, consistently fine. Yet as you walk its streets, the town exceeds expectations in small but meaningful ways, revealing a pleasant steadiness that transforms its modest title into a soothing promise that life here delivers exactly the gentle calm it advertises. Now drifting into Town 39, Intercourse, Pennsylvania, you immediately notice the amused reactions of tourists who stop for photos, unable to resist the comedic weight of a name that never fails to spark playful snickers. But after the laughter fades, the village reveals a peaceful beauty, blending rolling fields with enduring traditions, allowing visitors to appreciate a community that gracefully balances its humorous reputation with a sincerity rooted in history and quiet charm. Leaving Intercourse behind, the road ahead feels more unpredictable than ever, because each mile draws us closer to towns whose names grow stranger, funnier, and far more unforgettable, promising a countdown that only becomes more surprising from here onward. Leaving Intercourse behind, our journey immediately plunges into the next unforgettable stop, Town 38, Coupon, Pennsylvania, a place whose frugal-sounding name makes every visitor wonder whether the entire town was founded on savings, discounts, or some cosmic urge to clip opportunities before they disappear. As you explore the calm neighborhoods, the name's thrifty charm transforms into a playful metaphor, making you feel like the town itself quietly offers something valuable, urging travelers to look closer and discover meaning tucked between its streets like a well-hidden bargain waiting to be claimed. The road carries us next to Town 37, Toadsuck, Arkansas, where the name feels like folklore wrapped in a riddle, prompting travelers to imagine riverboat tales, rowdy crews, and an atmosphere shaped by stories that sound too wild to be entirely untrue. Walking through this small community, you can sense echoes of old river traditions lingering in the humid air, giving the place an oddly magical energy, as if the land still remembers the laughter, noise, and colorful personalities that once shaped its unusual name. We continue toward Town 36, Booger Hollow, Arkansas, a place whose name alone makes outsiders hesitate before curiosity pulls them forward, wondering what kind of local tale or peculiar event could possibly have inspired such a bold and mysterious label. As you move deeper into its rural charm, the town's playful personality begins to shine, blending humor and history into an atmosphere where even the quietest corners feel like they could burst into another story at any moment without warning. Our path leads next to Town 35, Yellville, Arkansas, a community whose name suggests endless noise but whose streets hum with peaceful steadiness, creating a strange contrast between expectation and reality that instantly captures a traveler's attention. The more time you spend here, the clearer it becomes that the name isn't a promise of chaos, but a reflection of spirit, making the town feel like a proud voice echoing through the hills, inviting visitors to listen closely to its deep-rooted history. We arrive now at Town 34, Burnt Corn, Alabama, a place where the name sounds like a forgotten frontier mishap, instantly sparking mental images of campfires, hurried travel, and stories that traveled farther than the unfortunate colonels ever did. Yet despite the odd name, the town radiates a warm nostalgia, making visitors feel like they've stepped into a preserved pocket of rural memory, where the past still whispers through the trees, and every breeze carries a hint of an old pioneer tale. Next on our list is Town 33, Climax, Michigan, a name that predictably draws smiles and raised eyebrows from travelers, creating a universal moment of shared humor before anyone even takes a single step into the town proper. But beyond the jokes, Climax offers a surprising tranquility, encouraging visitors to slow down, breathe deeply, and savor the irony of a place that balances its bold name with an unexpectedly peaceful atmosphere grounded in Midwest charm. The road pushes us toward Town 32, 84, Pennsylvania, a name that feels strangely specific, as though someone picked a number off a shelf without explanation, giving the town an identity that invites endless speculation. As you explore its quiet streets, the mystery becomes part of the experience, making the community feel like a puzzle piece intentionally placed to keep travelers wondering what deeper meaning might sit behind such an oddly precise title. From there we reach Town 31, Nada, Texas, a place whose name confidently declares nothing, creating a moment of amused confusion as visitors stand surrounded by fields, sunlight, and life that contradict the label entirely. Walking further in, you quickly realize Nada's charm lies in its simple honesty, offering a refreshing openness that makes you appreciate the understated beauty of a community that never pretends to be more than it is, while quietly offering far more than expected. Our next destination is Town 30, Hell, Michigan, a place that embraces its fiery name with full enthusiasm, creating an atmosphere where humor mixes with theatrics, encouraging travelers to lean into the town's mischievous energy. From themed signs to playful souvenirs, everything here feels like a celebration of the unexpected, turning a name that could have been intimidating into a friendly wink at the world, reminding visitors not to take themselves too seriously. We then drift into Town 29, Godley, Texas, a community whose serene name offers a striking contrast to the chaos of the world, promising a calm refuge with a title that feels gentle, respectful, and quietly poetic. As you breathe in the warm Texas air, the town's peacefulness becomes its strength, making it feel like a thoughtful pause in our strange and winding journey, a place where the name's simplicity mirrors the comforting rhythm of everyday life. Next, the road leads us to Town 28, Loveladies, New Jersey, a name that instantly sparks curiosity, sounding like a romantic retreat or the title of a forgotten novel while actually being a coastal community with its own relaxed spirit. Exploring the shoreline, you realize the town's charm comes from its gentle personality rather than its flashy name, creating a surprising harmony between the whimsical label and the soothing environment surrounding it. We journey onward to Town 27, Carefree, Arizona, a place whose sunny optimism radiates from every street, making visitors feel lighter the moment they step into the desert, glow that seems to match the town's cheerful identity perfectly. With its warm skies and relaxed pace, Carefree becomes a brief oasis of calm in our increasingly bizarre countdown, gently reminding travelers that some towns embrace their names with such sincerity that the entire landscape feels designed to match their energy. As we leave Carefree behind, the horizon stretches wide open, hinting that the names ahead will only become stranger, bolder, and far more unforgettable, ensuring our journey continues with momentum that refuses to fade as we approach the next 25 beats. Our journey picks back up as we leave Carefree behind and roll into Town 26, Boring, Tennessee, a place whose name feels like a gentle prank on travelers, tempting them to expect monotony while secretly preparing to overturn every assumption with its quiet, understated charm. As you wander through peaceful neighborhoods, the irony becomes its own reward, because nothing about the town feels dull. Instead, it carries a warm simplicity that subtly reminds visitors that sometimes the most ordinary places become unexpectedly memorable. Next, we move to Town 25, Truthville, New York, a place whose absolute-sounding name immediately makes you wonder whether honesty flows through the streets or if the label is simply a bold promise no one ever intended to examine too closely. Yet, as you engage with the town's calm rhythm, its sincerity gradually sinks in, making every conversation feel grounded and every corner feel steady, as though the community quietly honors its name without needing to boast about it. The road turns toward Town 24, Lickskillet, Kentucky, where the name paints such a vivid image that you instinctively brace for colorful stories, old legends, and the kind of rural humor that turns even the simplest detail into unforgettable local folklore. Walking the winding roads, you sense the town leaning into its own mythos, transforming its unusual title into an open invitation for travelers to appreciate the charm and history simmering beneath its lighthearted surface. We continue to Town 23, Two Egg, Florida, a name that feels like it popped out of a children's book, carrying a playful energy that makes even the quietest corners seem like they harbor stories full of rural wit and unexpected wisdom. The moment you step into its slow, warm atmosphere, the name begins to make sense. Everything feels simple, earnest, and grounded, creating a comforting reminder that small towns thrive on the quiet reliability, symbolized by their humble moniker. Our journey leads into Town 22, Sweet Lips, Tennessee, where the name is so charming and disarming that you can't help but expect a town full of soft laughter, friendly faces, and a warmth that lingers long after you drive away. As sunlight dips across the gentle hills, the town's peaceful demeanor wraps around you, carrying the soft reassurance that some places earn their names through the kindness and comfort woven deeply into the fabric of everyday life. Next is Town 21, Looneyville, Texas, a place whose whimsical name suggests mayhem, yet its quiet roads tell a different story, creating a surreal contrast where the label hints at chaos even though the community radiates an almost serene stillness. This contradiction becomes part of its charm, urging visitors to embrace the unexpected harmony of a town that sounds wild but behaves gentle, reminding us that the most delightful destinations are often the ones that playfully defy expectations. We push on to Town 20, Scratch Ankle, Alabama, where the name sparks an immediate grin, making you wonder what kind of pioneer hardships inspired a label so vividly uncomfortable yet strangely endearing in its raw honesty. As you travel its quiet paths, the name begins to feel like a humorous piece of frontier history, as though the land itself remembers every itch, scrape, and stubborn trek its early travelers survived with grit and a surprising sense of humor. Our next stop is Town 19, Sandwich, Massachusetts, a name that catches everyone off guard, offering no explanation other than the quiet confidence of a place that doesn't mind sharing its name with a universally beloved meal. Yet the town's charm lies not in its quirky title, but in the gentle New England calm that settles over you as you explore, reminding travelers that humor and history often blend together in the most unexpected ways. We head into Town 18, Bozeman, Montana. Not strange by itself, but included because its historic nickname, the Bozone, gave birth to jokes about a fictional atmospheric layer blocking intelligence, making the community's humor part of its identity. As the mountains rise around you, Bozeman's welcoming nature becomes evident, creating an unexpected harmony between its scientific tease of a nickname and the rugged beauty that makes the landscape feel wise rather than whimsical. Our path shifts toward Town 17, Peculiar, Missouri, a place whose founders embraced a name that promised oddity, making every visitor approach with heightened curiosity as though something intriguing might reveal itself around the very next bend. But instead of chaos, the town surprises travelers with calm streets and kind conversations, creating a warm irony where its unusual name encourages visitors to look more closely at the subtle details shaping its character. We move on to Town 16, Uncertain, Texas, where the fog rolling off Caddo Lake gives the place an atmosphere so hauntingly beautiful that the name feels less like a joke and more like a quiet observation about life lived close to the water's shifting moods. Every ripple along the lake adds to the mysterious energy, making visitors feel suspended between serenity and suspense, as though the town itself gently encourages people to pause and contemplate the unknowns that shape every journey. Next, we arrive at Town 15, Bumpass, Virginia, whose name draws laughter long before you arrive, prompting a mix of amusement and curiosity as you wonder what stories lie behind a title so boldly open to endless teasing. Yet, as you explore the rolling landscape, the humor softens into appreciation, because the town's genuine warmth contrasts beautifully with its comedic name, creating an experience that lingers longer than the initial giggle. Leaving Bumpass behind, the countdown pulls us deeper into territory, where the names grow stranger, the stories richer, and the sense of discovery stronger, reminding us that each mile forward reveals another layer in America's incredible tapestry of odd and unforgettable places. Our journey presses onward as we arrive at Town 14, Truth or Consequences, Nevada, a lesser-known sibling to its New Mexico counterpart, carrying a name that lands with the same dramatic weight and instantly challenges travelers to wonder what deeper stories hide beneath its bold exterior. As you move through its quiet stretches, the name becomes a playful dare, nudging visitors to imagine the choices and chances that shaped its character, turning even the stillness into something that hums with unexpected possibility. We head now into Town 13, Monkey's Eyebrow, Kentucky, a place whose name seems plucked straight from a wild, tall tale, making travelers instinctively picture a mischievous creature peeking over riverbanks with a raised brow full of secrets and swamp-born humor. Stepping into the region, the landscape's winding paths and quiet bends suddenly feel alive with personality, as though the town gently winks at newcomers and encourages them to enjoy the playful simplicity that inspired such a memorable name. Our next stop is Town 12, Big Arm, Montana, where the name carries a sturdy, commanding presence, prompting visitors to imagine a colossal limb reaching across the horizon, echoing the rugged strength of the towering mountains surrounding the shimmering lake. Walking the shoreline, the scenery transforms the name into something poetic, making every gust of wind feel like the embrace of a landscape vast enough to cradle travelers in its sweeping, powerful stillness. We continue toward Town 11, Chugwater, Wyoming, a name that immediately conjures images of rushing streams and hardy frontier spirits, drawing travelers into a place shaped by stories of early ranchers and the timeless rhythm of open skies. As you look across the vast prairies, the name begins to feel like a soft echo of the land itself, hinting at quiet histories that ripple through the region like water steadily carving its way through time. Our route brings us next to Town 10, Knock'em-Stiff, Ohio, a name so intense it feels like the opening line of an old frontier brawl, enticing curious visitors who wonder what kind of legends could possibly justify such fierce, unforgettable branding. Yet the rural calm surrounding the town contrasts beautifully with the name's gritty energy, creating a strange harmony where the quiet fields seem to cradle every rumor, story, and whispered tale passed through generations. We then enter Town 9, Flea Hop, Alabama, a place whose name sounds like the start of a dance or a mischievous critter's gathering spot, making visitors grin before they've even stepped out of their car. Walking through its peaceful community, the name turns charming rather than humorous, reminding travelers that sometimes the quirkiest titles hide warm, welcoming places where time slows just enough to make every moment feel pleasantly unhurried. Next is Town 8, Belcher, Louisiana, a name that always draws a second glance and a smirk, prompting travelers to imagine someone loudly announcing the town's presence with more enthusiasm than refinement. However, the quiet rural beauty tempers the humor, making the town feel grounded and sincere, offering a gentle reminder that labels only hint at the full story woven through the lives and landscapes they represent. We push forward to Town 7, Cut and Shoot, Texas, a name that sounds like a Western showdown frozen in time, instantly setting the tone for bold characters, dusty roads, and fierce independence rooted deep in local lore. As you explore the town, you feel its identity blending myth and reality, creating an atmosphere where every street corner carries a whisper of frontier intensity, softened by the warmth of a close-knit community. Traveling ahead, we reach Town 6, Bucksnort, Tennessee, a name that bursts with rustic humor, making visitors picture lively wildlife, mischievous nights, and campfire stories told with exaggerated flair under a canopy of southern stars. The real charm lies in its gentle hills and friendly locals, who carry the town's spirited name with pride, reminding travelers that humor and heritage often intertwine in places shaped by resilience and community. We near the top of our list with Town 5, Accident, Alabama, a cousin to Maryland's version, continuing the bizarre tradition of locations named after events no one fully explains but everyone loves imagining, with endless creative possibilities. As you take in the rural quiet, the name becomes less alarming and more intriguing, encouraging visitors to reflect on how even the strangest titles often spring from simple moments preserved by the people who live them. Our journey brings us to Town 4, Crumpler, West Virginia, where the name carries a soft, almost delicate sound, inspiring images of folded maps, crushed leaves underfoot, and stories layered through generations like pages softly pressed together. Walking its wooded paths, the town's gentle rhythm creates a peaceful contrast to its slightly chaotic name, revealing a community that seems to embrace life's imperfections with a quiet, enduring grace. Approaching the final stretch, we step into Town 3, Hopelicket, Georgia, a name that feels like a cheerful nudge delivered with a wink, drawing travelers into a place that sounds less like a town and more like a friendly promise wrapped in southern charm. As you experience its warm, welcoming atmosphere, the name transforms from quirky novelty into heartfelt truth, reflecting a community that genuinely hopes every visitor carries a piece of its optimism long after they leave. Finally, we arrive at Town 1, Dingle, Idaho, a name that strikes the perfect balance between humor and curiosity, bringing our journey full circle as we stand in a place that proves America's strangest names often hold the richest stories waiting to be discovered.